Hello, dear friends, and welcome to our weekly program that we are live streaming from Northern California from Divine Light Spiritist Center in collaboration with BSH Center, Spiritist Center. Here we are, we're continuing our beautiful study of the Spirit's teachings, which we find in the Gospel according to Spiritism, which was codified, was put together by Allan Kardec. When you look at the Gospel according to Spiritism, you may have noticed that there is a long line of chapters, and they have two main categories. One is the explanation of certain biblical quotations by Allan Kardec, and the second part of each chapter is the Spirit's teachings, where Allan Kardec allowed spirits on high to come through certain mediums in order to further explain to us the chapter that he had chosen. And today we're finding ourselves in chapter 7 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is entitled, Blessed are the Poor in Spirit. So what does poor in spirit mean? What does it mean? What did Jesus mean by that? Well, it's very clear that he referred to us being humble. Humble as one of the most important virtues. Jesus was the embodiment of humility, and he walked on the earth modeling to us humility from the cradle, which was among the animals in the stable, to the grave, so to speak, which he ended up before the grave. He ended up on the cross next to common thieves. Absolute humility, and of course, many events in between for the governor of this planet. He said that the kingdom of heaven is not for the prideful. It is for the poor in spirit. It's for all of those who practice humility. Hello, Nora, dear friend. Thank you so much for joining. And hello, Mark, dear friend. Thank you so much for joining as well. Thank you, friends. So today we're turning to, let us see, item 11. And you may guess what it is entitled with pride and humility. And to further underscore the teachings, we're going to share the screen with a little PowerPoint so we have a visual to these beautiful teachings that Allan Kardec put together for us. And of course, which are coming from on high, from Jesus proper, and from the phalange of spirits that Jesus sent our way to help us navigate our path, our incarnation on planet Earth. So here we are, pride and humility. This message is item 11, and it comes from the Spirit, Lacordaire, and that was in 1863. And of course, we chose this image of another absolutely humble act on behalf of Jesus Christ. And that was the washing of the feet of the disciples. Can we imagine that royalty today? Can we imagine that politicians or anyone with rank and power in the earthly way would kneel down in front of us and say, Nora, let me wash your feet. Mark, let me wash your feet. All right, let us go. May the peace of the Lord be with you, my dear friends. Let me just see, is there a message? May the peace of the Lord be with you, my dear friends. I have come to encourage you to follow the path of the good. Emmanuel, chapter 10 in Thought and Life, teaches us to seek goodness, to fear goodness, to visualize goodness, and to mold goodness with all the resources at hand. And here, at a very different time on planet Earth, from a very different spirit. We're hearing once again to follow the path of the good. And of course, the path of the good means, among other things, humility, practicing humility. Humility is a much neglected virtue among you, he says. Without humility, can you be charitable towards your neighbor? That's a good question. Can we be charitable without humility? We're venturing to say no, because if we give alms, for example, which is a form of charity, and we do it from pride, it's not really charity, isn't it? Or if we want to practice forgiveness and we come from pride, oh yeah, I forgive you. We know so well how that works, right, friends? It's not true charity. So in order for us to be truly charitable, morally charitable, we need to be humble. Without humility, you adorn yourselves with virtues you do not possess. Do we do that? Do we brag? Do we show off? Do we put on a mask to hide behind? Remember his humility, and of course he's referring to Jesus, which made him so great and placed him above all the prophets. And here it is. We're fearful of letting go of pride because we think we lose power. But is that really true? If we look at Jesus, it's not true. Because as Lacordaire just tells us here, it is because of his humility that Jesus was so great. And it's because of the humility that he embodied that placed him above all the other prophets. So if we can have faith in letting go of our pride, humility will be able to shine and take over. And that's when we truly ascend. Pride is the terrible adversary of humility. Pride is the antidote to humility. And what is at the root cause of all evil on planet Earth? It is pride and selfishness. They are both the same, two sides of the same coin. When we're selfish, we're prideful. When we're prideful, we're selfish. So pride is the terrible adversary of humility. As long as we're prideful, we can't be humble. If Christ promises the kingdom of heaven to those who are the poorest, and he does not necessarily mean the poorest financially, which is often how we understand the word. No, it's in the sense of humility, of being humble. So Jesus promises the kingdom of heaven to those who are the poorest. It is because the mighty of the earth imagine that titles and riches are rewards given for their merit, and that their essence is purer than that of the poor. Do we have that thinking? Do we think that, oh, I own a big house and I drive a big car. Maybe I'm driving 3 or 4 cars. I have a boat and I have a vacation home. I have 6 children and a beautiful husband, and I have a PhD, and the list goes on. Are we thinking of what we have, that we got this because of merit? No, friends, that's not how it works. As a matter of fact, we learn in the Spirit's book that receiving a lot of gifts in that nature that we just mentioned and listed is actually a challenge. It is a test of how we conduct ourselves with that type of wealth, those type of gifts. Are we capable of sharing them with our brothers and sisters, which is really why we receive them? Because we know all the gifts we receive from God, they also have their pitfalls, and we receive them to share. And then we're back to humility. So, the mighty of the earth imagine that titles and riches are rewards given for their merits. We can scratch that thought, dear friends. That's not true. Oh, you rich, while you sleep under golden roofs and sheltered from the cold, do you know that thousands of your brothers and sisters who are just like you are sleeping on straw or in the streets? We added that on the streets because we have so many homeless. A vain utopia of the so-called philosophers. If we are equal, why has God set them so low and me so high? Is a question we often say. How can we be equal? There is so many who have so much and so many who have nothing or very little. How can that be that we are equal? God must be mistaken. No, friends. Why has God set them so low and me so high? It's an illusion. It's not the true low and the true high. Remember, the humblest will be reaching the kingdom of heaven first. So it is not in titles and riches and material wealth and so forth, and beauty and strength and whatever we might believe we received because of merit. But we also learn in the Spirit's book from the spirits on high that the harder life is to be wealthy. Why is that? Because we have much easier time to not share, to become selfish. Our selfishness starts becoming bigger. So it's really a trial, dear friends, and it's the more difficult trial than poverty. He says, undress both of you, the rich and the poor. And what difference would there be between you? Nobility of blood, you will say, right? So maybe somebody who is royal would say, oh, of course, it's my bloodline that makes me different. Well, let's see. Lacordaire says, but chemistry has not found any difference between the blood of the nobleman and that of the pleb, or between that of the master and that of the slave. Once we take the garment of our bodies off, the illusionary part that we build our pride on, even if we were royal, it wouldn't matter. It's all the same. The chemistry of blood is exactly the same. And let us think about reincarnation. This is a very short-lived royal life, if we had that. It would maybe be between 50 and 80 years. And then what? And we come back as a pauper because we've been very selfish and prideful, maybe? All of this doesn't matter, dear friends. Skin color, whether we're noble blood of bloodline or not, where we're from, that's not where it's at. Humility, that's the true value, the true virtue. He continues to say, are riches eternal? We know already the answer. Do they not end with your body, the perishable envelope of your spirit? Oh, apply some humility to yourself. And he says, exclamation mark. You proud, what were you before you were noble and powerful? All humans are equal on the divine scales. And only, and here it is, all humans are equal on the divine scales. But there is a difference. Let us listen what the difference is. And only their virtues distinguish them from one another in God's eyes. So the only difference between us, brothers and sisters, is what? Our virtues. And humility is ranking right high up there. Because without that, we'll never be able to establish the kingdom of heaven in us. Never. So this is like the primary ingredient to be successful. All spirits are of one and the same essence, and all bodies are made of the same substance. Your titles and your names do not change them in any way. We're all equal on the divine scale. And only our virtues distinguish our distinguishing features. Dear friends, very important to remember, right? And all of you who endure human injustice, be indulgent with the wrongs of your brothers and sisters by remembering that you yourselves are not exempt from reproach. To do so is charity. It is also humility. So here's another aspect we're learning: to be indulgent with the wrongs of our brothers and sisters by remembering that we ourselves are not exempt from reproach. And even if we can't think of anything we've done wrong in this lifetime, there's so many other lifetimes before this one. And we wouldn't be here on planet Earth if there hadn't been a lot of wrong we've done. Destructiveness versus constructiveness. So it is charity, a form of charity. It is humility to be indulgent. And indulgence is part of the definition that the spirits on high give us through the Spirit's book, in the Spirit's book. Charity, the moral charity, is defined as benevolence towards all, indulgence towards others' imperfections, and forgiveness towards the trespasses we've experienced. If you suffer slander, bow your head under the trial. What does the world's slander matter to you? If your conduct is pure, cannot God compensate you? To courageously bear humiliation from others is to be humble and to recognize that only God is great and powerful. Only God is great and powerful, not the slanderer. Do we still put value into the opinions of others? Do we still feel miserable when somebody doesn't like us, and we feel so good when we're being patted on our shoulders? Here we are being reminded only God is great and powerful. Christ left you his doctrine. He provided you with an example of all the virtues, and you have forsaken his examples and precepts. Have we? Are we still looking the other way and forgetting about Jesus, what he modeled to us? We do him lip service, but do we really truly walk his path? Walk his talk, our talk? With your passions you have all made a god to your own liking, according to some terrifying and bloodthirsty, according to others uncaring about the concerns of the world. The god you have made is still the golden calf that each of you adapts to his or her own tastes and ideas. We hope we don't do this any longer. We hope we have developed past that. Wake up, my brothers and sisters, my friends, Laodicea says. May the voice of the spirits touch your hearts. How important is that? That we don't only hear the messages with our intellectual mind, that we truly feel them, that they sink in and become our nature. That is when the kingdom of heaven is being born inside of us. Be generous, be charitable without ostentation. Be generous, be charitable without ostentation. That is, do the good with humility. So when Emmanuel in chapter 10, Thought and Life, told us to seek goodness, to feel goodness, to mold goodness, to with all the resources we have at hand, he also implied that humility is a major ingredient to be, feel, visualize, and mold goodness. So humility is vital, dear friends. All right, let us move on to item 12. Item 12 is by Adolfo, who is a bishop Bishop of Argel, probably Argel in France. And his entry is under the same headline, Pride and Humility. Because we know without humility, we cannot establish a kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor in spirit, Jesus taught us. O humankind, why do you complain about the calamities that you have headed upon your own heads? He's starting off right very, very strongly, doesn't he? Are we ready for this? We created our own calamities. So, O humankind, why do we complain? Law of cause and effect. Troubles have become widespread. Who is to blame except you yourselves, who incessantly seek to crush one another? Isn't that the truth? Now, there's one thing of seeing it around us in the world. And if we see it, hopefully we'll reflect it back in our own lives, because the key question is, where and when am I crushing my brothers and sisters? Where and when am I still guilty of those thoughts, feelings, words, and actions? Where I become destructive and crush my brothers and sisters in one form or another. And may it be simply by being prideful. Pride is the fount of your ills. Here he is echoing the same message. There is only one way offered to you for this, but it is foolproof to go beyond pride. Take as your invariable rule of conduct what? So what is our saving grace? Adolfo is telling us now. So let us listen. What is our saving grace? To kick out of pride and to build the kingdom of heaven in our hearts and minds. Take as your invariable rule of conduct the law of Christ. The law you have rejected or falsified in its interpretation. What is the law of Christ? Law of Christ is love in all of its manifestations and forms, and humility is one of them. Allan Kardec, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, dedicated a whole chapter to there is no salvation without charity. Charity, as defined, as goodwill, indulgence, and forgiveness, self-abnegation, all the virtues, the law of Christ. The good news is we have all the teachings and the knowledge. Now we're invited to feel them and make them our own in every thought and feeling we generate. Why does anyone want to rise above his or her brothers and sisters? Why do we want to be better than the neighbor? Why do we want to have more than XYZ? Why do we need to have more titles? Why do we need to be more beautiful? Why do we need to be more wealthy, more powerful, more this, that, or the other? That's the question Adolfo is asking us. Do not forget that such a state of things is always a sign of moral decadence. So our desire to be more than anyone else in any form or shape is a sign of moral decadence. When pride reaches extremes, it is an indication that a downfall is close at hand. For God always punishes the arrogant. Of course, we know there is no punishing God. But it's the law of cause and effect. There will be an effect, a consequence, if we're prideful. Poor humankind, whose selfishness has corrupted every pathway, take heart once again. Open your eyes to the light. Open your eyes to the light. There are the souls of those who are no longer on the earth and who have come to call you to your real duties. Yes, We are invited to listen carefully because the Spirit's teachings that we're studying every Sunday night, according to the Pacific Standard Time, are those messages, is the light that Adolfo is talking to be aware of it, to listen, to learn from them. They came for a good reason, and Alan Kardec put these messages in writing for us to go back and through effort and repetition, practicing them, to never ever forget. The law of Christ is our redemption, and charity and humility are the most effective means for obtaining the grace before God. Charity and humility. And we already know we can't be charitable without being humble. Dear friends, again, we have all our tools. Our tool basket, our tool box is huge. And now we're polishing them. We're polishing the tool of humility, the tool of charity, and we make sure that there is no tool for pride and selfishness in our toolbox. That's not a tool we want to carry. We leave that by the roadside. We don't need it anymore. And our toolbox will be a little lighter, actually, but more effective and powerful. So now we're moving on to item 13 of chapter 7. Blessed are the pure. Blessed are the pure in spirit. This item is by Ferdinand, a protective spirit. What does he say? He has a different title for his message. He says, the mission of the intelligent person on the earth. Interesting that he picks the intelligent person. What is the intelligent person? It's a gift. It's a gift that was given to us by God to do what with it? To do the good with it, to share it. I hope we've made a list of all the gifts we have in this lifetime. And I hope we're picking one or two or three or all of them and we share them with our brothers and sisters. It's really important, dear friends. It's a form of charity. There is no salvation without charity, right? So here's what he says. Do not pride yourself on what you know, because such knowing has very narrow limits in the world on which you dwell. So if we when we've received this gift of intelligence, of knowing a lot, no reason to be prideful. No. Humility. Jesus knew it all, the governor of this planet. Was he prideful? No, we know he wasn't. If in his designs, God has enabled you to be born into an environment where you are able to develop your intelligence, it is because he wills for you to employ it for what? Why were we born in an environment where we were able to develop our intelligence? All of us are. Not only do we have Spiritism to sharpen our intelligence, but universities, education, we're very fortunate. We're very wealthy. Why did God give us this opportunity? In the next life, it might not be there anymore. And hopefully we'll take advantage of it. But why? Let's see what Ferdinand tells us. He wills for you to employ it for the good of all. There it is. Charity. Sharing our gift of intelligence and knowledge humbly with our brothers and sisters. It is a mission he has given you, putting in your hands the instrument that will help you in your turn to develop the intelligences lagging behind and lead them to God. We can be instrumental in boosting our own intelligence and that of our brothers and sisters. of being positive, constructive forces in other people's lives. And let us not remember just to stay humble, that when we speak all of this, when we share information, and it doesn't matter whether it's spiritist information or anything else, who is the first recipient? We are. So we need it most and foremost. But the byproduct, the fringe benefit, so to speak, is to share it with our brothers and sisters. And that we can only do when we're charitable and humble, and when we use our gifts to, as he says, for the good of all. It's so powerful. It's beautiful. It is a mission he has given you, putting in your hands the instrument that will help you in your turn to develop the intelligences lagging behind. The gift is to help us and our brothers and sisters. We're doing the good for all, including us. Does not the hoe that the gardener places in the hands of his helper show the helper that he must till? So if we have a boss and he says, okay, here's a hoe, and today would be maybe a computer, or will be a project we need to work on, right? Isn't that an invitation to fulfill the project, to complete it, to work on it? And in this case of this example, to take the hoe and start tilling, because that's what we do with hoes, we till the ground. What would you say if this helper, instead of working, raised the hoe in order to strike his master? Will we do that? Our boss comes to us and says, oh, could you please write a report about XYZ? Do we just take the papers and throw them at him, or throw the computer at him? No, we don't. We don't. But now let's see. Well then, does not the same occur with those who use their intelligence to destroy the idea of God and providence amongst their brothers and sisters? This is an example when we're using our intelligence, for example, to become criminals, to be destructive, to use our intelligence in a destructive way. And that we're masters of. Negative thinking, heavy, dark emotions, thoughts of violence, wanting to destroy with whatever we use our intelligence with. We're reminded of George in Liberation. George is like the master, the judge of one of the darker worlds. Well, he practiced justice and punished. He was punitive, terribly punitive and controlling. He had no mercy and no love. He used his intelligence, and he had a phalange of spirits so well organized. They were so intelligent in getting to us humans, us incarnates, and of course discarnates at the same time. That's what he, only in a destructive way, until his mother came to rescue him. She was a very evolved spirit, and it was her love and all the mentors' love that helped George to open his heart. So we are asked to not raise our hoe, use our intelligence to become or be destructive. Do they not raise against their master the hoe that was given to them to till the soil? We do. God gives us a gift of intelligence and knowledge and books and universities and money and time to do it. And then we hold on to it. We don't share it. That's a form of being destructive. Yes. Intelligence is rich in merit for the future, but on the condition that it is employed rightly, charitably, humbly. Unfortunately, many make of it an instrument of pride and perdition for themselves. Are we using our intelligence for pride and perdition? That's a therapeutic question for us to ponder and meditate on. Really, let us be very discerning in how we use our intelligence, our knowledge, Humans abuse their intelligence like all their other faculties. Nonetheless, the lessons are not lacking to warn them that a powerful hand can take back what it has given them. So we'll read the last sentence again, and that completes our study because this is really important. Humans abuse their intelligence, and the question is, do we? Do we? Like all their other faculties, nonetheless, the lessons are not lacking to warn them that a powerful hand can take back what it has given them. So the intelligence, the time, the opportunities, the books, the money, everything it takes to boost our knowledge, to study, is a gift from God. But God can take it away from us if we don't use it constructively for the good, and only selfishly and pridefully for our own selves, so we can say, oh, look at that. I have a master's in this university and that, and then I have a PhD in this, that, and the other. That will be prideful and selfish, and then we don't share it. We don't use it for the good. It can be taken away. And in next lifetime, if it's not in this lifetime, we will be in a situation where we're too poor. We just have to make ends meet, and we have no opportunity to study, to boost our intelligence. So if we're able to develop our intelligence, it's because God wills us to employ it for the goodwill of all. That's our mission, dear friends. That's our mission. All right, so let us go back and see you. There's also Linda Darnell. Thank you so much for joining, dear friend. Wonderful. So this completes our study for today. Next week, we will continue with chapter 8. And as we said, we're focusing on the Spirit's teachings. If you have any questions or any comments, please put them into the commentary, and we will answer, we will correspond. And in the meantime, dear friends, let us be humble. Let us be charitable. Let us remember there is no salvation without charity. And that includes sharing of our gifts, seeing the good in all and everything, and making use of the gifts that were given to us for the common good. Let us always be constructive in our thoughts, in our feelings, our words and actions. Thank you, dear friends, for joining. Many blessings. God bless you.